From one title fight to another title fight, we go to the women's 135-pound division where the Bantamweight championship that is currently vacant will get a home to start off 2024. And it will not be around the waist of Amanda Nunes. It won't even be around the waist of Juliana Pena. It's going to be between Raquel Pennington and Mayra Bueno Silva. The Ultimate Fighter alumni, a 17-fight UFC veteran, and entering on the hottest streak of her entire career, the 35-year-old Raquel Pennington, ranked number 2 at 135 pounds, will come into her second title fight looking to make good on this run that she's on and become the champion of the world. To do that, she's going to have to defeat a Dana White Contender Series alum who comes in on her own little win streak now. Of course, there's an asterisk on that last fight. As you can see, a fantastic finish that Mayra Bueno Silva had over Holly Holm last July, but it got overturned to a no contest after Mayra Bueno Silva had popped due to some, I believe it was ADHD medication that resulted in her getting a suspension. So the win gets overturned, but even prior to that, comes in on a 3-fight win streak. And if you want to count that Holly Holm one, then it's 4 with 3 straight via submission. I know not a lot of people are very excited for this fight. You know, they've seen Rocky do this time and time again, been in there in very close decision fights, not a heavily, favored woman to get big time finishes. But Mayra Bueno Silva, I think, can bring out the best in Raquel Pennington. Mayra Bueno Silva comes to fight, whether it's, win or lose. She wants to get a finish. She will go out on her shield if she has to. And I think you pair that with Rocky's win streak that she's on, that even has a submission sprinkled in to her credit. This may not be some lackluster or boring fight. I actually think this has the makings to be a relatively fun back and forth. The women's bantamweight division for years has been ruled by Amanda Nunes, with, of course, one small reign by Juliana Pena, where she had a huge upset over Nunes. But Amanda got her revenge, defended once more against Irene Aldana last year, and then hung up the gloves, left on top as a two-weight world champion. And now here, a vacant title, a breath of fresh air, if you ask me, for this division, something that it has needed for years and years. And, listen, that's not to the detriment of Amanda Nunes. It's not her fault how great of a fighter that she was, and no one else was really ever close to being on her level, especially once 2016 hit. So let's talk about the bantamweight division and why I feel like this title fight here is pretty important, and it can start a big comeback year for women's bantamweight. You have number 2 versus number 3, Pennington Bueno Silva. The winner becomes the champion of the world. Then they are assumed to take on the former champion, Juliana Pena, who's currently out due to injury. She's ranked number 1. Then you have number 5 ranked Irene Aldana, who, yes, lost in a title fight last July, as we just talked about with Amanda Nunes, but she came back just a few weeks ago at this point at UFC 296 and got a bounce back win. And she did that in what was one of the best fights of 2023. And I think hands down the best women's fight of the year against Carol Rosa. Then you go down the rankings a little bit more to a former champion, Miesha Tate, who's sitting at number 11 in the division right now, who's coming off of a huge comeback win after more than a year on the shelf. She looked the best she's ever looked in her entire career. Maybe, just maybe, 1 or 2 more wins gets her back into title contention. So there's 5 names there that are really helping this division move, or at least start to move, at the beginning of 2024. The biggest problem for me with this division is that there's no young up and coming prospects like strawweight has, and especially like flyweight has. That's the biggest thing holding back 135 pounds right now in the women's bantamweight division. To be truthful, Mayra Bueno Silva at 32 years old is pretty much the only prospect that's made a name for herself over these last few years and now she's here fighting for a title. So that's my biggest hope for 2023 is that the once dominant premier women's division in all of mixed martial arts can bounce back and have a good year. It starts here, the vacant title fight, Raquel Pennington, second time for her getting a crack at UFC Gold versus an up-and-comer in Mayra Bueno Silva from the Contender Series, a fresh face up at the top of the division. Winner there goes on to face Juliana Pena, and from there we have the Aldana that we just talked about after an amazing performance. We have Misha Tate coming in 2024 off of an amazing performance. We just need some fresh new faces, some young prospects to enter this year in 2024, make a splash, and hopefully going into 2025, we will have even more title contenders to talk about that aren't the same women that have been there for years at this point in this division. So let me know, what do you think about women's bantamweight? What does it need to really have a resurgence and make itself prominent again amongst the women's strawweight and women's flyweight divisions? Be sure to let me know in the comments below and give me your predictions on who's going to become the new women's bantamweight champion. Will it be Raquel Pennington or will it be Mayra Bueno Silva? Drop a like on this video if you enjoyed the conversation. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss fight breakdowns such as this, fight recaps, MMA news, fight announcements, and everything in between. Follow on social media at the BAJ MMA, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and follow on audio platforms such as Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you like getting a every single Friday, every single Monday, consistent schedule with everything I discuss on here in one long form audio podcast, you can subscribe and follow there as well. You get the best of both worlds. The Below Average Joe's MMA show. We keep on churning. Thanks for the support. Enjoy the fights this weekend. And I will catch you on Monday, probably Sunday now that I think about it. It depends, for the UFC 297 recap and all that's to come.